like that. See, we're live.
Okay.
Hi everyone. Really happy to be live with Trish Finnegan. Do you want to start us off, Trish, with an intro to you and your books?
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me here. I am Trish Finnegan, and I am the author of the Bluebird series. Number one, Bluebird, which is why it's called the Bluebird series. This introduces my main character, Sam Barry. She's a recruit. I got tired of reading about Detective Inspector this and Chief Superintendent that. And I thought, I'm going back to back to 1976 female recruit. So there we go. Then we have Blue Sky, Baby Blues, and Blue Flame. Each can be read individually, or they do follow the same characters as time progresses. But yeah, I was a police officer back in the 70s and 80s. These are based in the 70s. And I've borrowed from real life. I'm not writing from real life because I don't think some of the incidents I dealt with, I don't think it'd be right for me to write about those, because even if the people are no longer with us, the families might, and they might recognize it. So to be respectful to them, I haven't. But the funny stuff, yeah, I've pinched that direct from real life. The frog incident, that happened. It wasn't a frog, but that incident happened. Some people have asked me, is Sam me? No, she isn't. She's an amalgam. There's a little bit of me in there, but she gets to say stuff that I was thinking and couldn't say back in the day. What else can I tell you about me? As I was a police officer, I'm a magistrate, and I have 6 grandchildren, which I look after. So between wrangling grandkids, magistrating, and writing, I don't have an awful lot of time left. So that's my life.
So let's start with Bluebird, because that's the one I read, because I like to start with book one, and you didn't seem to mind where I started, so I was like...
No. Well, like I said, they can be read standalone, but Bluebird was the start of it and introduces all the characters, and yeah.
I'm so glad I started with book one, though, because I feel like I said to you before I went live, there's every so often when you do these, like interviews, and you come across the book and you're like, I'm going to read this author, like, more. Do you know what I mean? I'm not just going to read it for the interview. I'm going to go back and I'm going to want to read more of these. Like book 2 and 3 are on my Kindle.
Oh, good, cool.
Like, I'm glad I started in order, if you know what I mean. I wanted to read in order. I prefer to read that way, and I'm like, now I'm really glad because I've got a whole series to go.
Okay. And probably in the next year there'll be book 5 out as well, which has got the working title Blue Angel, which may or may not still be Blue Angel when it comes to publishing, but we'll see.
So why do all of them have blue in the title? Is there a reason for that?
Because of the first book. I chose the title Bluebird, and the publishers fortunately agreed with me and liked it, because it's the 70s and she was a bird, and she joined the police, so she was a bird in blue. Bluebird. And I thought, okay, and I thought, well, we'll stick with that then. So we had Blue Sky, Baby Blue, so the title always has a blue in it.
So it's like, why? I mean, you started in 1976. Is there a reason why that year in particular? It gives you a good amount of the 70s, I guess, to write in?
But it also happens to be the year that I left school in 1974 and joined the cadets. The cadets, as I said, told you earlier, was an actual paid job in those days. I got £12.50 a week, which was considered a damn good wage for a 17-year-old girl in those days. But as soon as you were old enough, they kicked you into the regulars, but we weren't old enough to be sworn in till then. So in 1976, I was old. Hello, funny noises. 1976, I was sworn in as a constable and began my initial training as a police officer, So yeah, that's why 1976 was significant for me.
And I guess for you as well, then, like, because you've got that lived experience and you know the things, was there less research to do for that? Because normally when we talk to someone who's written a historical novel, as yours are, people have to do research.
To be honest with you, I didn't need to do an awful lot of research except to remind myself of procedure back then, because obviously things have changed, because back then we were working off the judge's rules. There was no pace. I mean, and DNA, that was just something you spoke about at school, you know, in science lessons. You'd get a piece of blood, you know, a patch of blood the size of your hand, and you might get blood group, and maybe if they're male or female. Now you get a drop of blood, and you'll get the name and address and sexual orientation and everything, you know, you name it. It was very, very different. Of course, no mobile phones, no computers. So I thought that is a good time to go in, because there was enormous change going on then. And in the law as well, you know, they abolished the policewoman's department. They lowered the age from 19 to 18 and a half. And in the world in general, you know, there was tremendous flux going on then. So I thought that's a pretty good time to set it, because there was so much going on.
Yeah, because Samantha starts and she's got the kind of hazing of being a new starter. But you'd think she'd face a lot more sexism than she kind of does in the book.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I said you'd think she'd maybe face a lot more sexism, but that might just be our prejudice looking back.
There was sexism in those days, and frankly, some stuff happened that would have them locked up these days, you know, but was just considered banter and bit of fun. Did you ever see Ashes to Ashes? And there was that scene where Keeley Hawes was trying to get him to stamp her bum. Date stamp her bum. Oh, right. That happens. That actually happened back in the 70s. That was true. I was trying, everyone knows what it was like in the 70s, you know, and I was trying not to make the misogyny, the sexism then part of the story. It was just something that was there. It was something people lived with. Thank God it's not the same now, but back then that wasn't really the story. My experience at that time was that the policewomen's department was disbanded. So policewomen started to join in the same regulations, same everything as the men, on the same footing as the men. Now, in the force I was in, which was Merseyside, I think it was the November they actually disbanded the policewomen's department. My intake was the following February, so I was just the second intake after this. And I, of course, had gone straight from school into the cadets, and from the cadets to the police, I was just 18 years, 6 months and 4 days. I was a child. And it was like throwing a kitten into a dog pound. It was such a culture shock. This very masculine environment, and there's me, this little 18-year-old girl who knew nothing. So, yeah, it was, but I didn't want that to be the story. I wanted her trying to learn the job and everything else that goes on in the book. I wanted that to be the story, not the misogyny.
Yeah. I mean, and she does face sort of problems, doesn't she? In the book, from like being new and everything else. But there is, I think what's interesting in it as well is like the cast of characters around her. So like,
yeah, she makes some good strong friendships. Yeah,
she makes some good strong friendships. There's mentions of people who might be LGBT in there, which was probably very difficult to be.
Yeah, of course there were gay people then, but they didn't shout about it. Good God.
Yeah.
Don't know what would have happened. Yeah, I knew people who were gay back then. It's just, but it wasn't something to shout about. It probably would have been looked down upon. You know, would not have been. I wouldn't say it wouldn't be permitted. They couldn't stop it, but at the same time, it would have been frowned upon.
Yeah, and she's she is fine. I mean, at the end of the book, she has kind of found her feet, hasn't she? She's got strong friendship. She is making a difference.
Yeah. That's why she joined. She wanted to make a difference, and she starts to feel that she perhaps can do that. But then she starts also understanding, which is a big thing. You go in with these ideals, and sometimes you realize, well, actually, I'm not going to be able to help here. I'm not going to be able to do that. And it's having to learn what you can and can't do, and accept what you can't do. It's just you just can't, however much you want.
She sort of realizes, because it's quite a like a tricky case that she's involved in the first one, isn't it? And she sort of realizes that she can't save everyone, really, but she makes a difference to one or two people. That's enough.
Yeah. In real life, police procedure is deadly boring. So I speed everything up, and also at her stage and at her age, she's early 20s. She's a bit older than I was at the same stage. She probably wouldn't have been put in that position in real life, not for another year or two anyway. But for the book, she's been thrown right in there, you know. So.
Does she? Because she has a really hard time in this book. Like really hard, doesn't she?
Yeah.
You're not kind to her in any way whatsoever. Does she have a bit of an easier time in the other books?
Of course not. No, there's still problems. There's just different ones. That's all. She still has every book. She has a learning curve. Every book that I try to do, she has to face something, which changes her or educates her. But no, like life does not get easier. It just gets different.
Yeah. But in this one, she's got the potential of a romance. Does that develop without giving away who it is? Does that develop in other books? Or
you have to read that to find out. You know, does it develop? There's something there. So yeah, you have to read. I can't really go into it without giving too much away. You know, but yeah,
that's a problem, isn't it? Because there are questions I want to ask you, but I'm like, if I do, there are certain ones I can't because I give things away.
Yeah. As you say, you try and talk about things, and you just think, actually, I can't tell you that because I want you to read the book. I want you to enjoy the book, but at the same time, I'm writing another book and I'm tying things up there, and I might give that away as well.
I mean, the topic of the sort of case she's investigating is quite dark, isn't it? Like the first one.
Yes.
Is there things? I mean, because you'll have seen everything as a police person in your career, but are there sort of things that you wouldn't want to write about?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I've got memories. I've got pictures in my head that I wish I didn't have. You learn to live with it. You compartmentalize it. A bit of a funny story, actually. Because of things I did during my career, some stuff was pretty awful. It sort of skewed my view of what is really dark and what is not. So I wanted to be quite, I was going to say, I want to be realistic without it being, I hate it when you get books and the blood's running off the page and across your carpet. I hate those sorts of books. But I wanted to be realistic. So I thought I had, when I first submitted it, when I was putting it in for editing and so on, I thought I'd actually written some parts of it realistically, but I pulled it back a lot. And apparently some people didn't agree with that. And I got this message from my publishers, like, you've made one of the beta readers cry, sort it out, because it was a little bit too dark. So I had to, in the end, I took that particular piece out, but because my publishers, they really don't like it very, very dark. And I hadn't recognized it as being very, very dark because my view of stuff had been a bit skewed by my own experiences. So I thought I had pulled it back, but obviously not enough. So yeah, apparently I made a beta reader cry over it.
I mean, that must be a problem, that because, I mean, to me it read as very, realistic. Like that's, you know, that how those people could get drawn into what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's not, you treated it very sensitively, and it was felt very realistic, but it was quite a like dark topic. And but then,
Yeah.
like you said, maybe if it's stuff you've dealt with as well, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't have the same kind of.
Yeah,
Everyone
some stuff I've dealt with, and yeah, it's been awful, some of stuff. But I try and put the realism into the book without the nastiness, if you know what I mean. I want it to be realistic though. So some people might find parts of it difficult to read. But that's not to say it's not gory. I don't like gory books and that type of thing. It's not gory. I don't think it's over dark now, especially as the publishers pulled me back a bit more. It's because they said, yes, you have quite a dark streak, don't you? And I said, well, I didn't know I had, but apparently so, yes.
No, it is a good read. And what I like about it is there's moments of lightness even in it. So there's like characters like there's sort of someone who's probably going to be her informant, isn't there, in a way, like that she makes friends with. And I really liked her because she sort of brought moments of joy to it, didn't she? Like they go to investigate something, and she'd be there and give them like a cup of tea. And
yeah. You talk about Karen there, are you?
Yeah.
Yes. She's less important in some books, but she's always there in the background. She's actually a nice woman, and we learn a lot more as the series goes on. We learn a lot more about Karen, her background, and so on.
Yeah, because she always feels like a friend to them, even though she's, kind of someone that they probably have to arrest at points.
Oh, she's been arrested many times. But yeah, she becomes, I'm going to say a major character, but she's a recurring character.
Do you make some of the characters recur from feedback, or were you always intending Karen to come back?
I hadn't actually intended Karen to come back. You find that sometimes when you're writing, when a character you intend to be a major character will just fall by the wayside, and someone you thought was just this little minor thing who might just last perhaps a book suddenly becomes quite important. And well, the character Norman in there, he's a side character really in this one, and there's a bit of conflict going on there. But as the series goes on, you'll learn a lot more about Norman as well. And I never intended him to appear very much, but he does. Because sometimes the characters take over. Sometimes I can be typing away there, and the characters will just, hang on, you're going off on your own tangent. No, I want this book to go here, but the characters are taking it over there, and that just happens. I love it when it happens, because sometimes it makes it better. But yeah, sometimes the characters take over and they decide what's going to happen, not me.
There's a moment where she's helping someone who's got like PTSD, I'm going to imagine. It's like a soldier, isn't he? An ex-soldier. Is he an ex-soldier in the book? Like she has to go and he's like causing a ruckus and they take him off in the ambulance. That feels almost like that's something that you've seen or experienced on it. It's just too random a story.
Yeah. Like I say, most of them most of the stories, they have a kernel of truth in there, but I've changed things. But yeah, because in the 70s, the young soldiers from the Second World War, they were middle-aged men by those days, and there were a few quite damaged people around, and of course, what we recognise now as PTSD, it wasn't recognised then. In those days, stress was for wimps, and there were all these poor damaged lads coming back, and they say who've grown up, and there was no safety net or anything for them. And yes, we dealt with a couple of them, who were trying to cope with their experiences from way back. Well, in those days, 30 years back. And
I think for me as well, that sort of showed the usefulness of Sam as like a police officer, because she had that more kind of less threatening sort of approach, didn't she? You know what I mean? Like the men could have waded in that and helped and wrestled him onto an ambulance, but she sort of had a different approach, proving why it's good to have kind of both people in the force.
That's something I learned. The men had a baton, you know, the truncheon. We got nothing. Some forces, they gave the policewomen little tiny baton about that big. And I wrote in the book what people used to call it.
You did. I was going to say, I remember reading this, because she just has a handbag.
Yeah, she has a handbag. In Merseyside, we didn't get anything. We had a handbag, and it wasn't even a decent leather. It was a soft leather handbag. So that was the nearest we had to anything for defence. You know, you could just swing your handbag around, but you know, it was soft leather. It wasn't going to do anything. You learned when you went into situations, you couldn't really defend yourself. We didn't even have a hard helmet. We had these little felt hats on. So we had to use our voices. We had to talk. We had to think fast on our feet, and we had to talk our way out of situations. It didn't always work. I took a couple of thumpings, but you know, mostly you learned to talk to people. You learned to talk people down, because you didn't have the option of wading in. Well, you did, but you'd have got flattened. So we talked our way out of it, and we talked our way into situations. And I mean, I can remember one incident as well where this fella, I got sent to a pub fight. There's me, 5'5", walking into this pub fight. And this fella is literally swinging a bar stool around. And I ended up talking him down. And we walked outside. I didn't have to wrestle him outside or anything. We walked out hand in hand. Just walked out. And I don't know whether he was just so stunned that I would do that. You know, like what the hell is this little girl taking me out for? You know, and I had to walk him outside. And we went out hand in hand. But luckily, he came with me. He was all right, you know. He was just raging drunk and looking for a fight, you know, but I wasn't going to give him a fight. I wasn't in any position to give him a fight. But I think sometimes also there was a taboo in those days about hitting women. It's perhaps not so much these days, but then men were brought up like, you don't hit a woman. And this little policewoman turns up and it's like, oh, well, I can't really thump that, can I? You know, so I was able to talk to them more, you know, and whereas the lads, he'd have just waded in there and there'd have been a big ruckus, and yeah, it got a lot more violent than it actually turned out to be, because it's all calmed down nicely. And yeah,
she goes through quite a lot of pairs of tights in the book as well, doesn't she?
Yeah, you do. You did. Oh, I did. Yes, I always had to get. I mean, I used to get them by the box and keep them in my locker, because you're always going through them.
There's one of the other scenes I really liked in it that I think shows Sam really early on is like the potential of her to be a really good police officer. Is they go to like a traffic accident, and there's like a baby, isn't there, that's gone, and they think it's dead, and they're just going to do a certain thing, and Sam's like, no.
Well, they don't see how it could have survived, but Sam's thinking, well, maybe, you know, let's give it a go. And so she goes onto the car to try and rescue it, and as it turns out, you know, she does rescue it. So I've just given away a whole part of the book there, but hey,
sorry.
Yeah, but yeah, stuff like that happens sometimes.
I'm trying to like not give away the main plot. I think there's like so much that happens, isn't there? Because it is her being like a day-to-day police constable. There is so much that happens that isn't like the main kind of mystery.
Yeah. Life goes on just because the book is concentrating on this particular storyline. There's a whole load of stuff happening outside. You know, like, you know, it's not all. it's not all sitting around the sergeant's desk waiting for this week's job to come in, like on telly. There's a constant stream of jobs coming in that you've got to deal with. You've got to, and at one point I do mention that she's starting to feel a bit overwhelmed, because she's got all this paperwork she's got to try and get through, and she's got deadlines to meet, and then at the same time there's more jobs coming in, and she gets a bit overwhelmed by it all. That does come as a shock. It's not like the telly.
So we've got some hellos from Karen and Sam.
Hello.
I like as well, and I don't know if this is because I don't imagine this would happen as much now because there's like a central control, isn't there? But in like the book, she's sometimes told to go and run
to go and help out in the control room.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s and the 80s, and a lot of the time to the 90s, each division had their own control rooms. Even the subdivision had their own control rooms. And there'd be a call handler, there'd be the radio operator. And if it was if it was a divisional control room, then you might have a couple of call handlers and a radio operator. And the sprogs, the new ones, they would be sent in to cover for lunch and meals and other such things, to learn it as well, because there people think you're just sitting on your bum when you're in the control room. Police control room is actually an incredibly busy, very intense place. And you've got to know your area really well. If you want to direct people, you've got to know the area well. So they usually have the older experienced ones in there who know the town like the back of the hand, like Ray, and Derek, who's the call handler. Sam's sent in there because she doesn't live in the area she's policing. It's never a good idea to live in the area you're policing. You don't want that. She lives in a different division and sort of motors in. So she's getting to learn the town that way as well.
See, we've got a hello from Patsy too.
Hello.
I asked you before we went live if you're going to write her into the 80s. Because you're up to book 5, so you're still in the 70s.
I'm working on book 5, yeah.
What year are we in book 5?
79. 79, and I'm thinking, do I take it forward to the 80s? I haven't decided that yet, as I was saying, is because that's, although I was policing in the 80s, I can remember it well. That takes us into the riots. You're probably too young to remember those, are you?
I'm a late 70s baby.
You're late. You won't remember the riots then. The Toxteth riots, because obviously Bluebird is based. Although I only ever call it the Peninsula and the city, it is actually Wirral and Liverpool. And the Toxteth riots. It was a difficult time, and it's quite divisive because there's people getting doctorates off it now, talking about what happened. And I sometimes don't have the same view that someone who's studying it might, because I was actually there. So was my husband, and I thought, I don't want to get into that whole argument about what's right, what's wrong, what happened, what didn't happen. So I think it's just easier not to do that. So I might, as I say, I might cut it off, tie up a few loose ends, and then maybe skip a few years and perhaps bring her in later on, the 90s, maybe even modern day. She's old, thinking back over a time, something like that,
Yeah, I was going to say, wonder if you could do it kind of maybe either later in the 80s, like more advanced in her career.
Yeah.
Or you said in the 90s or something.
Yeah. Has she been promoted? What department did she stay? Did she go to CID? Is she a boss? Because back then, there hadn't even been a female chief constable. And then Pauline Clare was chief constable. I think it was Lancashire, wasn't it? And that was a big, like, a female chief constable, but now women get everywhere, so yeah, will Sam end up as a boss? You know, like I'll have a think about that one, but I think I might skip the 80s.
Because at the end of book 1, they are sort of saying to her, you know, CID could be a thing that you could think about, because she is quite smart and
yeah.
things, isn't she?
Yeah, she's uncertain. She's uncertain what she wants to do there. But to be honest with you, most people who join the police don't really know what direction they want to go in. Some remain as response officers and are perfectly happy doing that for the entire career, and they're perfectly happy doing that. Others think, oh yeah, I want to join the CID. When you first join, I don't know if it's changed at all, but in my day, you'd go off to the training school, you do your initial training, and then you'd spend time going around each division. You'd spend a month with CID, you'd spend a month here, a month there, and then you'd sort of be put with like a mentor, a tutor constable, and then sent out on the beat to do the job proper. But you get a little taste of a lot of different departments, and you start to realize like where your interests lie, where your abilities are. Some people are good at some things that other people are not so good at, you know. If some people, they go in with the intention, I want to be a mounted police officer. I never did, but some people do that. And some people I joined with did. Some went on the motorbikes, some went on mounted, some had a dog. You know, you sort of learn what you want to do as you go along. And I mean, for me, I was more interested in the communications in the control room. So that's what I ended up doing. I finished up in the control room doing that as it was changing from a paper control room over to computers, computer aided dispatching and that type thing. So I was there as that was changing over. That was interesting. My husband, it turns out he's a natural born teacher. He got into the training side of things and finished up as superintendent in charge of foundation training before he retired there. His friend, somebody he joined with, his interest was CID, so he went into CID and finished up as superintendent in CID. But one of the things he regretted was that the higher up the ranks he went, the less actual police work he did. It became more admin and political, and he didn't really enjoy that bit.
That's interesting. You don't think, I guess, probably as someone who's not as well versed with the sort of variety of the police, of all the different ways that you can go, you wouldn't think of someone going off and being training and teaching.
Yeah. It turns out he did it just for something to try, you know, because obviously you go through your training, and he didn't have any particular aspirations to be a trainer, and he was offered a course that came up. And he thought it might be useful if he was going to be mentoring incoming bobbies, because as you go on in your career, obviously you become a tutor constable, and he thought this training was all. Anyway, it turns out he was actually quite good. And this went on, and in the end, he was a natural born teacher. He was an operational cop, but he was a teacher. And he finished up getting his master's in education, and then he went to the training school as a trainer, and then he was training the trainers, and then he was in charge. He remained in training, and in the end, he was superintendent of foundation training.
It must be, I mean, we've talked about this at the beginning, but it must be so helpful. How helpful are you to other crime authors as well? What wealth of police knowledge. I feel like you'd be someone who would be loved by crime authors all over the country.
I'm out of date. I'm rusty as hell. I couldn't tell you anything about current thing. I mean, obviously, I'm too old now, and things change so fast. I'm out of date. There are people out there actually who do police advice work as a job. You know, they actually go out, and there's several who, pardon me, who can advise on current legislation and current procedure and that type of thing. But if you want something from the 70s and 80s, then yeah, I'm your girl. I can tell you, I can do that.
But there are people who do write 70s and 80s ones. I mean, even people like Linda LaPlante have gone back, haven't they, with Tennyson and written her in the 70s.
Yeah. And she advanced in her career, didn't she? Tennyson. Yeah.
I interviewed Terry Deary last year, wrote The Horrible Histories, and he wrote a book in the 70s with a women lady as well. I'd like a female policing person.
Yeah. But like I say, I can offer advice on historical procedure. And that's what I've been told it is. And I do resent the 70s being called historical, but hey. But present day procedure, I'm not really up on that.
I think, sadly, in the terms of what they consider to be historical fiction, even the 90s are historical.
No, that was last week.
Which is really depressing, isn't it? Like,
my youngest son turned 40 last weekend, and I'm thinking, 40? Like, how? When? I've got a 40-year-old baby. I can't believe it. Yeah, but anyway.
So we've got this 5 books out. If someone's a new author to like someone's commented on the stream and said that you're a new author to them, if they are new to you, would you advise them to start at book 1? I know you said they all read as a standalone, but I feel like you're going to gel with the characters in book 1 so much.
Bluebird is the one that introduces the characters. It gives a bit of background. It teaches you sort of who they are within. Not everybody sort of. A police station runs in a particular way, and everybody has their own little role in this police station. And it introduces sort of how, why, who, all the rest of it, So it might be useful for future books to learn that. So, but yeah, you could just pick one up mid-series and read it and pick it up quite quickly over who's who and who's friends with who and so on.
Is the lingo that you use in it? There's like weird things that they say, like going from rafts and stuff. Is that all like correct?
Yeah. Yeah, the jargon's correct. Yeah. Sprog, that's for the new person, and they stop being the Sprog when the next Sprog comes in. I can't even remember how many I use now. Refs. I use refs a lot because that's what you do. You go for your refs, which is short for refreshments, or you scoff. Now, scoff can mean the food. I've got my scoff here, or I'm going to scoff. It's just words you use. There's words like twock, which is taking without consent, and then you start talking about somebody twocking something. So they invent their whole word. There's a whole vocabulary out there, that you can talk, that you can speak, and other people may understand or may not. So this is why we're warned when we're writing, and the publishers don't always like too much jargon in there because it's not always understandable.
I know what twocking is before.
Yeah. As I say, that was an example, but there's a whole raft of stuff out there,
I mean, there are some in yours that I had not heard of, but yeah, I definitely know what twocking is.
Yeah.
It's one of those that you pick up in just general life, I think.
Yeah. As I say, it leaks into general life because people use it. You find that whatever profession you're in, it's got its own jargon, and it starts to creep into your everyday language, and then other people around you pick it up what you're talking about, and I suppose it's the same with police and nursing, and stuff like that,
Oh no, it 100% works. I'm a teacher, and my mister has never been a teacher, but if you put him in with a group of teachers, he'd probably understand a lot of what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Hold his own. Because he's just picked it up over the years.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what happens. I mean, people you talk to. I mean, my kids grew up with it. My kids grew up knowing the phonetic alphabet, that type of thing. Paul and I said, well, when you want to talk about something, when they were growing up and you don't want to know about it and you'd spell it out. And then they learned how to spell, so we'd use the phonetic alphabet, and the blooming understood us. So we had to resort to French in the end. You know, if we wanted to talk about something we didn't want them to know about.
Do you have a kind of core contingent of fans of the book? You know, when you're bringing a new one out, is there a group of people in the area who are big fans of Trish Finnegan?
I'm not sure, I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I don't have... Burning Chair do have sort of a newsletter that they send out. But I don't have sort of like loads of emails off people saying, I love your work, that type thing. That doesn't happen. I presume it must go to the publisher or somebody. But yeah, I've got people who sort of, and I mean, I go to various events around the place and, you know, in other parts of the country and so on. And people come over and just say, oh, I've never heard of you. What do you write? And I think, oh, thanks. But then some people go, well, I read Bluebird and I absolutely loved it, or I read Baby Blues. Oh my God, you know, what a fantastic book. I've got all your other stuff now because I enjoyed that so much. And cool, yeah, I love hearing about that. I love hearing people's feedback on it as well, because even if it isn't particularly complimentary, it helps me be a better writer. If I think, oh, well, that didn't go down well, oh no, people don't like that, so I know not to do that in future, you know, or I knew to expand something else that people did like. So even if it's bad, I love getting feedback off people.
Do you have like an author group online, or like a readers group online, or anything like that? What's your author presence like online?
I have my own website. To be honest with you, I'm too busy to do very much with it, so it's sort of just sitting there at the moment. I haven't updated it. It must be 2 months. I have a Facebook page, Trish Finnegan. I have apparently I have an Instagram account, but I haven't looked at that for a while. I'm going to have to do that. I'm terribly lazy when it comes to social media. Like I say, I'm a member of a writers group here, but that's not really what you're asking there. The thing is, I said, because I'm so busy, I don't have a lot of time to sort of promote stuff myself. So I rely very heavily on Burning Chair, who are my publishers, to do all that stuff for me.
Do you have any author events coming up then? Are you going anywhere, like to any of the big book festivals or anything?
Well, this last weekend I was at the Cheshire Crime Festival. It's run by the Curious Cat Bookshop in Frodsham. Next week I'll be going up to Crime and Publishment, which is a writers' workshop group well, it's near Gretna, Fleming Kirkpatrick, or is it Kirkpatrick Fleming? I always get mixed up between them. It's near Gretna anyway. So I'll be doing that. Have I got anything else planned? Nothing at the moment. I do try and get to, I can't do them all. You know, there's so many you think I would like to do that. I can't get to them all. So I do try and get to sort of 4 or 5 author events during the year. But yeah, there's loads around, but I don't always get to them. But they're the 2 I've done at the moment. So one last weekend and one next week, which I'll be in Scotland.
Do you go to the Harrogate one?
No, I haven't done that one yet. I used to go to Harrogate an awful lot when Paul was training. He was working at the centre there at Panel Ash for a long time. And we used to go up there, and he'd stay over during the week, and sometimes I'd go up there and join him if I got time off and could palm the kids off with someone. So I got to know Harrogate quite well. But yeah, I keep saying I'm going to have to do that, and people saying, "Oh, you'll love it, you'll love it." So yeah, I'm going to have to. But no, I haven't been to Harrogate one yet.
Yeah, you should. It's a good one.
Yeah,
it's good just to network with other authors and things.
Yeah. And that's what I love doing as well. I love meeting other authors when you go to these places. And I mean, I went to one in Liverpool. Was it last year or maybe even the year before now? I can't remember. And I was sitting there for one of the talks, and literally diagonal to me was Anne Cleeves, Vera, and I just went completely fangirl on her. It was like, look who it is, getting my phone out. Yeah, I'd went completely fangirl. Yeah. So yeah, meeting people and like what I consider proper writers. Yeah, like Anne Cleeves. Oh my god. Yeah. So I love all.
I would say you're a proper writer. You've got a number of books out. They're very good
Yeah,
books.
I know, but I look and I just think, yeah, but it's me, and that was Anne Cleeves. And I've met a few people like that now, and Michael Ridpath was another one. I did. I did Bristol last year. I went down to Bristol, and there was Caro Ramsey, and I did a panel with Caro Ramsey and Michael Ridpath, who's a writer I like very much. He writes stuff based in the Magnus Johnson series. It's based in Iceland. And again, I went completely fangirl there as well, just because I was all these people. And when I first started doing this, I was just completely intimidated. It's like what am I doing here with these proper writers? And it's only in more recent times as I'm starting to think, well, actually, yeah, I am a proper writer, I suppose, but I still find it hard getting my head around that.
Do you so we've sort of talked about some of the people that you obviously really enjoy reading. So you're obviously a crime reader. What have you read recently and enjoyed?
What I'm reading at the moment, I don't just read crime. I like a good sci-fi as well. I've been reading. Yeah, I love a good sci-fi as well. And what I have been reading is the Time Police series by Jodie Taylor. It's set in some distant time, and basically they police time because people have learned how to time travel, and they're trying to keep the timeline straight. And it's policing, but different, because it's the time police. And also by her are the Chronicles of St. Mary's, which is a good series. Again, it's about time travel, but they're historians who want to observe history in contemporary time. But it's time travel, and I thought, yeah, I like reading that. And another one I'm reading at the moment is not connected. Well, I suppose it is sort of time travel. It's Sarah Woodbury, and it's the After Kilmerry series. It's imagining that Llewellyn wasn't killed at Kilmerry, and what happens to Wales and England. And they think they've gone back in time, but they haven't actually gone back in time. It looks like they've actually gone into a parallel world. Only in this one, Llewellyn wasn't killed; he lives, and it's just how it goes off on a tangent from what we know as history to what becomes history there. It's difficult to explain, really, but yeah, I enjoy that.
Good. Well, we always like a good recommendation.
Sorry?
I said we always like a good recommendation.
Yeah. So yeah, Jodie Taylor and Sarah Woodbury is one, and Michael Ridpath. If you like sort of Icelandic type things, that's which I do. He concentrated. He used to concentrate on like financial crime, that type thing, because apparently that was his background. But the Magnus Johnson, it's not just about financial crime. It's I do enjoy reading it. Yeah.
You might like, if you like an alternative history, you might like Alison Morton's Romanova series.
Romanova.
Yeah, it's like set in the modern times ish, and it imagines that like the Roman Empire didn't die.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also like female led, so there's like a matriarchal line, if you know what I mean. So women have a lot of the positions of power.
All right.
In it.
Oh, I'll bear that one in mind. Romanov. Yeah. Okay.
I very much. They're another one of the like series, a bit like your one now, that I've discovered in the group.
This way.
Like I've discovered them through the group. So.
All right.
I can't remember how I ended up with the first one, but it's like I love it when I discover a new series in the group.
Yeah, and you suddenly realise there's another 5 books to read there.
Yeah, there's like so many, and then you like, because the author's in the group, you can talk to them and be like, "Oh, I loved your book," and
yeah.
Like, I dropped my review of your book in the group with the hope that other people would be like,
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Good. But yeah, I'll keep mentioning them as I read them. You'll get more.
Yeah, thank you.
Because I genuinely think, like you said, I think Sam's a wonderful character, and I think the fact that you're literally starting the career with her, aren't you? You walk
The
through
series
the
opens with the stop. Yeah. Yeah. Because she's got so much to learn, and it's such a culture shock to her as well, you know, as it was to me. But Sam isn't me. People say, is she you? No, she isn't.
But I think the other good thing as well is it does let you explain like the things without it being like an obvious explanation, because she's kind of learning them as you're learning them.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is
like about, you know, she was scared that she wouldn't remember the caution when you lock someone up, you know, that you were not obliged to say anything. And of course the caution's changed now, it's a completely different caution. But yeah, that was a big thing. That terrified me. Like, what if I forget? What if I don't say it? What if I can't remember it, you know? But yeah, she's got to learn. She will learn. And
like getting the right form. There's a few moments where she's like worried about whether she's filled in the right form or.
Yeah, it's all these days. It's all online. It's all, you know, they bring all sorts of. But then there was cabinets full of different numbered forms, and for everything, just for everything. You get to know the most common ones, you know, and you start carrying them around. We used to carry them around in our bags, the stuff you're going to need. But yeah, there's so much paperwork. So much sitting down, and these big sit up and beg typewriters, the old fashioned typewriters, you know, you had to sit there and yeah.
I mean, you must have seen quite and Sam in a way in it must have seen quite a sort of shift in technology.
Oh yeah.
From when she started even into the 80s a little bit.
Yeah. Well, when I very first started, for instance, no one thinks anything of the PNC these days, the Police National Computer. And you can put a car in and you get details of the car and the owner. You can put people in, get details of the person. Are they known? Are they not? You know, are they wanted? You know, stuff like that. And there's a whole lot more on there that never used to be on there. When I first started, you got these little cards about so big. And you filled in the details of the thing and you'd send it off down to DVLA. And about a week later, you'd get your little card back with the details on it that you do in 2 seconds these days. And so we're moving from that. Back then, we thought it was great. You know, you could put a car number in and get the details of the driver that you could go and speak to and then carry on from there. But everything was so slow. It's just the way it was then. But you know, thinking back, it was so slow. But then they got the PNC in, and then each control room got the PNC. And it's like, oh God, this is so fast. It's fantastic. But again, the information when you think back was so limited. But we thought it was wonderful. We thought it was fantastic. And then when I moved into the control room, everything was on paper. You do jobs on paper. We had little buttons to press to get the incident number down. You know, that type thing on a display on the board. And again, now that's all on computers. In fact, you'd be sitting there with an array of screens in front of you with all the information that you need in front of you. And that is so different. And that's moved on even from when I was doing it. I mean, even from then, there's stuff now on there that I couldn't even hope to try and do, because I'd have to be retrained, because it's so different from even when I was doing it.
When did you stop being a police officer?
2006. Just before Christmas, 2006. Well, no, when I say a police officer, I stopped being a police officer, an actual policewoman, in the mid-80s when I started having children. In those days, there was no part-time working for policewomen. So Paul and I had a talk, my husband Paul, we had a talk, and the way it was then, we knew he'd go further than I ever could, simply because he was a man. So we were wondering what to do about childcare when I was expecting our first. And I couldn't expect, my mum was still working, and I couldn't expect grandparents to take them on because we were working shifts, and it had just been too much. So we looked into getting an au pair in to help. We looked into a nanny. We worked out as I was going to have use all my wages to pay for childcare. So what was the point? So, you know, had there been part-time working, then that's probably what I'd have done, but we couldn't. So we made the decision, and I came out of the police for a while. Paul remained in, obviously, and he was promoted and promoted and promoted. And then I returned as a control room operator, given my previous experience. I actually went into Cheshire Police then from Merseyside, working in the control room. And I was considered support staff then rather than a police officer, but I did still work for the police. I was still involved. I was still active, but I was dispatching rather than doing.
But that must be, I mean, as an oversight into everything that goes on, that must have been a wonderful, like for you now as a writer, that must have been a wonderful experience.
Oh, it's given me a lot of material, should we say, yeah. But I don't use direct jobs as happened, jobs I dealt with.
I mean, you can't use direct ones, obviously, but you can get inspiration because
yes.
You can't like everything you can imagine has probably happened in some way or another, hasn't it? So although you're not going to use a real thing, that you're going to have inspiration.
Yes, most of the incidents I talk about, I write about, have a kernel of truth in there. They've started off from something, and which has made me think. I mean, writing, I have always liked writing, even when I was a kid at school, and I used to scribble little stories. When I was policing, when I started in the 70s, we still walked the beat. And I'd be given my area, and what would happen was, like I say, no phones, no mobile phones, nothing. I mean, you couldn't be seen to read a book. You couldn't. You just, all you did was you went round, you do your round, make sure everything was okay, and then you'd think, well, I can just go and do my round again. But if it was raining, 3 o'clock in the morning on Grange Road in Birkenhead, it was like, I think I'll just go and find a nice quiet shop doorway, and so I can see everything, but keep out of this rain. And I just let my mind run, and I'd think about incidents that have happened, and I'd think that went really well, but what would have happened if this happened instead? Or occasionally, do you know, I don't like the way that went, I wish I'd have done this instead. How could that have gone? And that's where a lot of these stories come from, this what if. What would have happened if that had happened instead? What would have happened if I'd done this instead? So I had these stories buzzing around my head for decades, literally. And I'd make up little stories, you know, as I was walking around over things that I saw and thought. And so, yeah, that's where that comes from. I, of course, being busy with sort of job, marriage, children, all the rest of it, I didn't have time to do very much writing. That came later on, and that's when I could start using these stories that have been buzzing around my head for all this time.
You have 2 minutes left. So would you like to remind everybody who's watching what they are going to go away and buy? Give us a show of all your covers again.
Show all my
covers about them.
This is the first one. This is the one that started it. Bluebird. Because she was a bird in blue. The 70s. Then came Blue Sky.
Does that involve aeroplanes? Because it's got a plane on the cover.
Yeah. It does, and passwords. Baby Blues. And the last published one is Blue Flame. I can say there is a fifth one in the pipeline, but that's not ready yet, so that might be a little while. I'll have to see. Yeah, that's Bluebird. That was about 10 years in the making, because I kept tinkering with it. I kept trying to change it to fit what everybody thought I should be writing. And it took a while to dawn on me that I'm not going to please everybody. So I may as well write what I want to write. And as it turns out, it was a good move.
Yeah, it was a very good move. It's a very good book.
I've got my Amazon orange banner, you know, I've got one of them for Bluebird.
Brilliant. And you're going to have to come back and have another interview with us when book 5 is out, because that'll give me an excuse to read all the rest.
Yeah, I'd like that. I'd like that.
Me too. And then all that's left to say for now is thank you. Thanks for joining us. It's been wonderful.
And thank you very much for having me.